My name is Michelle Boardman. I'm a Community Work Incentives Coordinator, and I work at AHEAD. AHEAD is a specialized human resource organization. We assist individuals with disabilities with obtaining competitive employment in the community. We provide job placement services, so we assist with pre-employment activities, we assist with job coaching, placement, and follow-along services. That's our main focus. We also provide work incentives counseling to transition-aged youth aged 16 to 30 who are receiving Social Security benefits based on disability. So my main role is to assist individuals who receive SSI or SSDI or a child disability benefit with understanding the impact of employment on a person's Social Security benefit. Receive supplemental security income. I have limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. It's a progressive degenerative disorder that eventually leads to needing to utilize a wheelchair for mobility, at least in my case. I walked until about the age of 13, and then from there I could no longer walk, so I use my chair to get around.
When I first met Michelle, I was blown away. She really does inspire me to work harder, to be better. Michelle has taught herself a lot, and I think Michelle has a very good perspective on where other people are in their journey, and that helps her do her job very well. She was excited to learn that there were incentives for her to return to work and go to school and finish her education and plan. Almost too good to be true, that she heard the information and had to go back and really think about it. When the information was summarized for her then at a later date, it really hit home.
I always wanted to get a job, but there were a lot of barriers to getting a job for me. You know, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I took on little jobs here and there, but it was always making a little bit of money. And I was always told that if I make money, that I would be in jeopardy of losing the benefits that I receive. So I really didn't pursue work very much because I was concerned about how work would impact my benefits.
Employment helps with quality of life. I mean, for anybody, whether you have a disability or you don't, you go to work to increase your financial stability, and so it shouldn't be any different if somebody has a disability.
A month before graduation, I decided to go to a resource fair at Temple University, and it was a disability summit, and they had a panel discussion about going to work, and they had resource tables. So I went to every table, and the last table that I hit happened to be AHEAD. And AHEAD had a benefits counselor there, a work incentives coordinator, who was informing individuals about going to work and how benefits would be impacted. I guess the Ticket to Work program has allowed me to obtain the supports that I need. I don't necessarily need the ongoing job support that someone with a different type of disability might have, but for me, I need financial assistance with, car modifications, or I needed financial assistance at the time with paying for school. The Ticket to Work program assisted me with being able to obtain those employment supports that I would need to further my career and to actually become employed. I think it's really important for people not to allow work to limit them financially. They have to do what's best for them. They have to do what's going to be financially in their best interest. So, determining how much they can work and still be able to obtain the services and the supports that they need. And you don't want work to limit you. You want work to help you to become better off financially and better off with self-sufficiency.
Thanks for joining us today for our COVID-19 Healthcare Fraud Facebook Q&A, hosted by Health and Human Services, Office of the Inspector General, and the Administration for Community Living. I'm Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Nanette Day. OIG's top priority is to protect the public and the health and well-being of HHS beneficiaries. The current COVID-19 pandemic has led to numerous complaints about healthcare fraud. There are people who are taking advantage of the fear and anxiety we are all experiencing during this difficult time. Fraudsters are trying to enrich themselves by stealing the personal and medical identity information of unsuspecting patients. They are using telemarketing calls, unsolicited emails, text messages, social media platforms, contact tracing, and even door-to-door visits to persuade you to give them your personal information. We want to inform the public and give you the tools you need in order to detect, prevent, and report fraud. Joining me today is Rebecca Kinney with the Administration for Community Living.
Thank you, Nanette. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Rebecca Kinney. As Nanette said, I am the Director of the Office of Healthcare Information and Counseling at the Administration for Community Living. My office oversees the Medicare-related programs that ACL administers, and those programs primarily help Medicare beneficiaries understand, enroll in, and access their Medicare benefits. We also have a program that focuses on helping Medicare beneficiaries protect themselves from Medicare fraud, and that is the Senior Medicare Patrol Program. The SMP mission is to empower Medicare beneficiaries and their families to prevent, detect, and report healthcare fraud, errors, and abuse. We have grants in every state, DC, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. The SMPs provide outreach to the public to educate on Medicare fraud schemes and how to protect yourself from Medicare fraud. We also do one-on-one assistance to help Medicare beneficiaries and their families really understand situations they may find themselves in. If someone thinks they may have been a victim, the SMP can help sort through the information, try to determine what's going on, and if needed, we will help report the issues through the OIG. So today we want to go through some questions and provide some answers on COVID-19 and maybe some other health care related fraud. And why don't we go ahead and get started with our first question. And Nanette, would you mind taking, what is the best way to prevent healthcare fraud?
Well, the best way is really, there's two things to consider. The first thing is you need to educate yourself. You need to be able to recognize a fraud scheme. So how do you educate yourself? Well, first of all, you're doing that right now by watching one of these programs. But it's really important to read about it and to stay abreast of what's going on in the news, because these schemes are widespread. They are using a lot of different methods, as we said before. And so that's the first thing, is to be a wise consumer. If somebody solicits you out of the blue, that is your number one red flag that says, stop, I need to do my, and this is the second part, due diligence. Nobody who is legitimate is ever going to have a problem when you say, I'm sorry, I need to verify if this is correct. I need to verify this. I can't tell you how many times we've had complainants call our hotline and they've already given their information away, and they said, you know, I started to think about it, and then I did some research, and sure enough, I found out it was a fraud scheme. That's not the time to do that. The time to do that is when you're reading the email, you're looking at the text message, or you're talking to somebody on the phone. You want to do your due diligence, and any legitimate business understands that you will want to do that in order to ensure that you're not being taken advantage of.
Yes, thanks, Nanette. I would also like to add that it's important to do your due diligence, but also if you haven't contacted the person, it's probably a good idea to not share your information. So don't give out your Medicare number or any of your personal identifying information, Social Security, you know, those things may seem obvious, but these callers will call and they sound legitimate. Sometimes they will be saying things that are scary and you'll feel like you have to act. Please don't be afraid to be rude. Just hang up the phone. If you need to talk to a doctor or a healthcare provider about your situation, if you have questions, call your providers directly, those that you're used to working with. Don't be giving information to people that are calling you or providing unsolicited contact in any way. Those are risky situations, and if you find something that seems legitimate, then do your research, look into it, see if you can find more information before you provide information to those individuals. It's better to hang up the phone, don't provide the information, than it is to try to fix it later. We can't take the numbers back once you give it away. So be very careful with that.
All right, let's go to our next question that has come in. Besides my Medicare and Social Security number, what other information can fraudsters use to steal my identity?
Yeah, that's another great question. So as we were saying, the Medicare number and Social Security number seem pretty obvious. Those are the types of things that you don't want to give out. But you also want to make sure that you aren't giving out things like your address, your date of birth, any personal information. You certainly don't want to be giving away information that may give fraudsters hints at passwords that you use. I know we all have 100 different passwords we have to use on different websites and whatnot. You want to be secure with all of that information as well, because any of those little pieces could be used for the advantage of the fraudsters.
And following up on that, because that's an area that doesn't seem as obvious to people as the information about yourself, but that's exactly right, the password guessing. You see these all over Facebook. Take this quiz about this aspect of your life. All of this is mining data about you. Is it really that important to learn the answer to that quiz? Just know that you've given a third party detailed personal information about yourself in order to take that quiz. So we highly recommend that you don't do that, other than the obvious, not giving out your bank account numbers and your credit card numbers too on these unsolicited calls.
Great. Okay, our next question is, I received an email offering COVID-19 items like personal protective equipment, PPE, and hand sanitizers. I deleted the email. Is this something I should have reported?
So with email, I think we can make a very good distinction here. We can't report every piece of spam that you get, and you're going to get a lot of spam. But when you see an email that is calling you to action, to click a link or to provide your personal information to them immediately, it isn't just simply an advertisement, but there is some action that they want you to take. Don't click on the link, first of all, but that should be reported to us, because we need to know that these things are happening, and you can do that. It's very easy to report. We have 800 numbers, which we'll give you at the end of our show today, and we have online forms. It's very, very simple and easy to report. The average piece of spam that is just sending you an advertisement and it isn't asking anything from you, it's spam. You can mark it as spam. But if they're asking anything from you, click this link or give us your personal information. This is the type of thing that we do want to know about.
Absolutely. And I would also add that if you aren't sure if something is potentially fraudulent or not, this is where the Senior Medicare Patrol could come in and help as well. You could contact your local SMP in any of these situations where you think you may have been a victim, or you're trying to determine if it's a simple error or not. In this particular question, it is likely a scam to try to get you to click a link or something like that. But if there's any gray area and you're not sure what to do with it, that's where the value of the Senior Medicare Patrol comes in, where we can sit down one-on-one and really look at the situation and try to determine, is this something that should be going to the OIG or another authority? Sometimes it's things that aren't anything related to Medicare. We can try to help sort out where the best place to go. And really, when in doubt, we typically will report, just to be on the safe side, to make sure that the information is getting to where it needs to be.
And just to give a plug, that is the great thing about the Senior Medicare Patrol, is that they can help you figure out what to report and where to report.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's take the next question. What if you were a victim of fraud months ago? Is it too late to report it?
That's a great question. No, it's not too late to report. Really, we want you to contact your SMP or the OIG at any point when you think you may have been a victim. It is better to report it and be on the safe side than to not report at all. It may be a situation, again, where the SMP could help sort through things and determine what's going on. We may be able to help get billing errors corrected, but then at the flip side, if it is potentially fraudulent, the OIG would find that information useful for possibly other cases that are ongoing or information that they really just need to know.
And I'm going to expand on that a little bit about the importance of reporting, not just the fact that it was delayed, but the importance of reporting. You know, I've been in law enforcement for a long time, and I've spoken to so many different victims, and I have come across information where I learned about victims, and when I contacted them, I was like, you know, why did you not report this? And a lot of people say, well, they don't think it's going to make any difference. You're not going to catch them anyway, or maybe they were just embarrassed to report. This is something that, you know, we really want you to get past that, because I'm going to explain to you how important it is for law enforcement. If you don't tell us, we may not know. Your particular fraud experience could be the unique piece of information that we needed to break open a case. And I've seen that happen any number of times. So it is so critical to report if you have been a victim of fraud. It tells us what's going on. It gives us useful information to, you know, make our investigations. And it also lets us know how widespread the scheme is. Is it just happening in one state, or are we getting calls all over the United States? So the importance of reporting is, I mean, it just can't be overstated. So we want to hear from you, and we want you to report it. Now, with that being said, I know that there's sometimes a frustration because I have reported my fraud scheme to you, and now I want you to tell me how it's going. Unfortunately, because this may be part of a criminal investigation, we're not going to be able to contact you back unless we need additional information from you. So remember, you are our partners in this. You are our partners in fighting you know, fraud, waste, and abuse. But we also have the inability, and it's not have the inability, we're just not able to contact every single person who's provided a report to us and give them the status of it. So, you know, we apologize for that, but that is just the reality of our experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, just to put in another plug for the Senior Medicare Patrol. So while we work very closely with the OIG and we give them all the information that we have, another thing that we can do where the OIG isn't necessarily able to do is to work up with you one-on-one in the situation, so that if it is an instance where something was billed to your Medicare that you maybe didn't receive, we can also work with the Centers for Medicare or Medicaid Services to try to get that corrected, so that if it is something that you need later, that you'll be able to do that. And you know, so we kind of add that extra layer of being able to help beyond just reporting the fraud with the whole situation to try to help you through whatever it is that may be going on. Okay, the next question is, can scammers still contact you even if you have your phone number on the National Do Not Call Registry?
Right, and that is, if they're not going to respect the Do Not Call registry, I mean, these are already scammers. So, yes, they are going to call you, and that's one of those things that people believe, that somebody simply can't call you. Well, they're going to break the law anyway because they're trying to steal your information. The Do Not Call registry doesn't mean anything to them. But one thing I will tell you is that you should report this, even if it's just online. Because one of the things, you know, again, we get so many complainants that we're talking to, and we've had complainants say that while they're talking to the scammer on the phone, they've gone on their computer and typed in the phone number that called them, because of course they can spoof any phone number. So understand that they can spoof it and make it look like it's another telephone number, and then they will, all these reports will pop up on the screen saying, I got a scam call from this number. So not only is it important for you to check that, but if you've gotten a scam call, it's useful to go online and report that, so that somebody also at the same time can be going on there saying, oh, this person also got a scam call from this number. So, you know, they're not going to respect the Do Not Call registry. Know that any call coming into your phone can be a scam call, but also know that you can really help others by reporting that you got a scam call from that particular number. They do change them regularly, that's true, but even just if you put it in and, you know, an hour later somebody's able to check it, you could have saved them from being the victim of a fraud.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say the next question. What kind of fraud can be committed if someone has your Medicare number?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer is actually really broad. There's lots of different things they can do with your Medicare number. The biggest thing is really billing for services not provided or never rendered. So, for example, they may bill for a piece of durable medical equipment, such as a wheelchair or oxygen equipment or something like that, that you never received. They also could bill for services provided by a doctor or a hospital that you never received. They also could use those numbers to we have seen where folks will get a hold of a Medicare number and use it for themselves to get services maybe they need where they don't have health insurance, and they could steal basically your identity to get coverage for themselves. That's less common, but it's definitely a possibility. They also sometimes will sell those numbers. Once your number's been compromised, it really is something that's highly wanted by fraudsters, because then they can go out and bill for things, maybe collect on it, and just keep using it until that number stops working. So it's a really valuable piece of information for fraudsters and something that you want to protect. And keep an eye on your Medicare summary notices or your explanations of benefits, because oftentimes that's where we find these issues first, is by beneficiaries reading their summary notices and identifying things, whether it's a piece of equipment or a service that you never received, but it's showing up on your bill. And those are things that we want to know about so that we can get it reported and possibly investigated to try to stop that from happening to someone else. Anything you want to add?
That's really, that's the truth. That Medicare summary notice is critical. Now, I know some of you might be receiving them via email, and you're not going to take the time to just go and check it. You get an email that your notice is available. We do ask you really to look into that because you are the front line. You are the one who knows what tests you had. You're the one who knows what doctor you saw, and even that you even went to the doctor at all. We have complainant after complainant call us and say, I don't know this doctor, I don't even have this condition, I was never seen by them. Now, this is slightly outside of the COVID-19 range, but we were seeing a rash of, we call it medical identity theft. We were seeing a rash of medical identity theft in the opioid arena, where people, in order to get opioid prescriptions, were stealing other people's medical identities and going to doctors that would give them prescriptions under that person's Medicare number. So there, again, it's a valuable thing, but you are the one that can tell us what was going on there. Also, we're seeing I went in for this procedure, but then I'm seeing bills for all these other procedures that I did not get. And so, again, you're the only one who knows what happened at that appointment. So it's important for you to scrutinize, to make sure that the people that are billing you are, providers that you have relationships with, and to make sure that, the prescriptions that are being billed, that those are all things that do belong to you. Because not only are you helping us prevent fraud against the Medicare in general and keep the money in the Medicare Trust Fund where it needs to be to protect all of us at some point in our life, but you're the one that will also have lost their medical identity. And so in order to help us, you're helping yourself, because now that you know your medical identity has been compromised, there are going to be steps that you need to take, like getting a new Medicare number, calling 800 Medicare and getting that. So it helps both ways. So check for yourself, but also check for us.
Yeah, and if I could expand on that a little bit more, another important reason to keep an eye on it for yourself is oftentimes we've heard, well, if I wasn't billed, why do I need to report it? Why should I care? And Nanette shared, it does impact the Medicare Trust Fund, which impacts all of us. But also, if you've been billed for things like a wheelchair and you never received that wheelchair, that could be a problem for you down the road if you do need a wheelchair. There are several things that are covered by Medicare that Medicare may pay for only once in a lifetime or only once every 5 years or so, depending on the piece of equipment or the test, whatever it may be. And if that is showing on your record as having already been purchased on your behalf, but you never received it, and 3 years down the road you need it, you may have difficulty getting Medicare to cover it because they think they already purchased it for you, and they won't understand why you're asking for it all over again. So it's really important to keep an eye on those things, to report it when you see it, work with the OIG, the Senior Medicare Patrol, 1-800-Medicare to try to get those things sorted out. And again, the SMP will help with those types of situations to try to get those things sorted out for you when we can, but it is really in your best interest to make sure you're reporting those things when you come across it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I think I have the next question. So are fraudsters taking advantage of the pandemic and using old tactics to scam people, or is COVID-19 fraud scheme something new that we haven't seen before?
That's a great question because the the answer is both. It's the same old fraud schemes, right? They're trying to get your information. They're using telemarketing. They're using emails. They're using the same avenues. But here's what's new with COVID-19. Contactless payments and contact tracing. So where we're seeing the same old schemes, and you'll likely know them when you see them. I can tell you there was one scheme, and as a matter of fact, I had this complaint. I've had multiple complaints, but this one came in just yesterday about contactless payments. So they were setting up a COVID test at a facility. So they sent an unsolicited email. They are setting up a COVID test at a facility, and they said, well, because we don't want to have any contact when you're at the facility, we're going to go ahead and collect your copay right now. And so they got the driver's license information, the credit card number, the Medicare number, got everything before the test. The individual drove to the address for the facility, and it was a fake address. There was not even a building there. There was nothing there. So this contactless environment is creating a new way for this scheme to happen. Whereas normally your doctor calls you up and says, hey, I need your credit card. You're like, no, I'll just pay when I'm there. So that's one of the big things. Be aware of that. And you do not have to authorize contactless payments. That is not a mandate. You can pay when you're there. There are machines, you can tap your credit card, and there's no actual contact between you and the individual that you're dealing with. So watch for that. The other new area is contact tracing. And this is where, it's a very important thing right now. You might be contacted saying that you, for whatever research reasons, they found that you've come in contact with somebody that was COVID positive. The information that they're going to be asking you is solely about that contact and how you feel. They are not going to be asking you for your credit card number, your Medicare number, your Social Security number. I wouldn't even give them my date of birth. That's not necessary over the phone. So remember that it's possible this contact tracing is going to be critical for us to, combat this virus. But they're not going to be asking you for personally identifiable information that could be used to steal your identity or your medical identity. So that's kind of the new area that we're seeing.
Yeah, and to expand on it, some of the old tactics that they've picked up and are making new again are things such as using scare tactics. We've saw, particularly at the beginning of the healthcare crisis we're currently in, a lot of scare tactics being used, cold calls to people, offering to sell insurance that isn't really insurance. We have a product for you to help pay for everything related to COVID if you happen to get sick. Trying to scam people out of either their money or their medical identity to use that information for their own good. We also have seen instances, which is really frustrating and unfortunate to see, where they're advertising or soliciting that they have cures for COVID or a vaccine, which we're working on, but we don't have vaccines yet. And with all of these things, if something is medically needed, Medicare is covering all of that. So you don't have to buy extra insurance if you have Medicare to be covered for COVID. And when a cure is available, if you get sick, that will be offered. Vaccines, same thing. Once it's available, it'll be covered by Medicare. So all of these scare tactics to try to get people to act, to give out their information, are really just that. They're tactics to try to get at your information so that they could use it for their own good. And so again, just to repeat the message, don't give out your information unless it's to your provider, your doctor, your hospital, and don't give it out over the phone to somebody that called you unsolicited. Only give it to those that you know and trust to make sure you're on the safe side.
Okay, well, I think we have time for one more question, and I will read it now. So, where can I report fraud that's not related to COVID-19?
All right, so where you can report fraud that's not related to COVID-19, you can report Medicare fraud directly to the OIG, as Nanette had said several times throughout. The phone number and the website for that, I believe, will be showing here momentarily, but just to verbally also give it to you, the phone number to contact the OIG is 1-800-447-8477, or you can go to oig.hhs.gov. In addition to that, if you wanted to get help with Medicare-related possible fraud, errors, or abuse, you can contact your local senior Medicare patrol to receive one-on-one assistance, as I've discussed several times today. You can find your local SMP at www.smpresource.org or by calling 877-808-2468. Both of those contacts are to our National SMP Resource Center, which will help you find your local SMP.
So thank you. And again, just to make a small point about if you have suffered identity theft, you also are going to want to contact the Federal Trade Commission. They have an excellent resource that gives you everything that you're going to need to do if your identity has been stolen. And if you've lost your Medicare card number to a fraudster, you're going to need to call 1-800-MEDICARE in order to have a new card issued to you. Other than that, general health care fraud, as it relates to the government-sponsored insurance programs like Medicare and Medicaid, should be reported to the HHS Office of Inspector General. So I think that's all we have for you today. I want to thank you again for joining us for our COVID-19 healthcare fraud Facebook question and answer session. I've had a great time. I know that Rebecca has too. Yes. Just going to reiterate to you that to reach the HHS OIG Inspector General, you can contact us at our 800 number, which is 800-HHS-TIPS, but that actual number is 800-447-8477, or go to our website, which is oig.hhs.gov, and at the top you'll see a little red circle that says Submit a Complaint. That's where you can go.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services at taxpayer expense.